And his Christmas is next Thursday, I guess. Lance, how we doing this afternoon?
Hey, Lance.
Good. My Christmas is kind of at the combine also. I have a few Christmases.
I can see that. But, yeah, when this draft is over, buddy, I'm sure you just take a long, nice vacation.
That's the biggest Christmas of all.
I bet. I mean, if you don't know Lance's work, go check it out, NFL.com, the draft tracker. Lance has been studying football players for as long as I've known him, so for over 15 years, and he knows what the hell he's talking about. And, Lance, look, the Patriots here at number 4, it's an interesting kind of position to be in. There's a lot of speculation that they could get. There's a lot of players in play maybe for the Patriots, but I want to talk about just Travis Hunter. He seems to be maybe one of the more polarizing guys. Just your thoughts on Travis Hunter, Lance, as a player. Can he play offense and defense in the NFL? And do you think the Patriots have a chance at all at getting him at number 4?
Well, look, can he? Does he have the ability to? Yes. I gave him a grade as a wide receiver, and I gave him a grade as a cornerback. 2 separate grades. They're both very high. He would have been a top wide receiver in the draft, and I have him as a top cornerback in the draft. So he has the ability to. Ted, I think that's a better question for you because you know about the physicality of the league. And it's my belief that you'd be crazy to play him both ways simply because it's just too much stress physically on him. I think the first thing teams are going to do is test him in terms of being able to tackle and support the run. He's not the biggest corner in the world. So if he does play cornerback, I think it's a big advantage to have someone like Travis Hunter on your defense. He's got insane instincts, and his ball skills are just top notch. I mean, so he's going to have better ball skills than a lot of the wide receivers he goes up against when he's a corner. You just don't have that happen in the NFL very rarely. Do you have a cornerback with those skills? Now, what I would do is play him full-time corner, and I'd give him, 8 to 10 snaps at the wide receiver position. I think, depending on the team, I think there's some teams that will do it the other way around. And I've talked to some teams who kind of view him as a wide receiver first and a corner second. So it's going to depend on the team. Can he do it? Yeah, but he's played 2,600 snaps the last 2 years. I mean, that is an insane number of snaps. Most of the guys that I study who have started for 4 years, they've played in the neighborhood of 2,600 to 3,000 snaps. Travis Hunter's done it in 2 years. Now, not all of them were the most physical snaps, granted, but I just think in the NFL he's going to have too much value to risk his durability over the course of a 17 and potentially 18-game season.
So, Lance, that noise you might hear right now is New England and all of Patriots Nation praying that Shedeur Sanders blows the New York Giants away, allowing him to go 3rd overall. Crazy enough, leaving Abdul Carter available to the Patriots at 4. But in the
I think you got to be careful. It may be Travis Hunter there. I know everyone's plugging in. Travis Hunter too, but I don't think that's over in Cleveland from people I've talked to. So I think Travis Hunter could end up being in play at 4. Here's the problem. You're really going to take Shedeur Sanders over a guy like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? I mean, I'd have a hard time. I don't have a high enough grade personally on Shedeur. I've been looking at these guys for a long time. I haven't talked to any teams who have that kind of grade on them. It would get down to a desperation move by the Giants, and I think it's a CYA move where they, where Joe Shane and Brian Daboll say, look, if we win 8 games, 7 games with Russell Wilson, we're fired. If we win 7 with Shedeur Sanders, 8 games, we can say, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe you saved your job. But when it comes to just picking the best football player, boy, that is going to be really tough to pass on a guy like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter in that spot. However, and I've got a couple friends who work there with the Patriots, and so I'm cheering for Shedeur to go in that top 3 just so you guys have a better shot at one of the top players on the board. But I just think better. I think the smartest football minds are going to make the sanest decisions, and I think New England's going to be left with what I think is a pretty tough spot at number 4.
Lance Zierlein, NFL Network, NFL Media, joining us. He has the draft tracker on NFL.com. He has all the info, knows all these players, and for that reason, I'm going to ask him, is Will Campbell a starting left tackle in the National Football League?
Yeah, he's a starter. I think the question is he going to be a starter for the next 10 years, or does he bump down to guard? I remember having the same concern with Jonah Williams coming out of Alabama. We talked about whether or not he was a tackle. And my whole point was, well, he can get guys blocked, so I don't care. I think Will Campbell can get guys blocked. I think there are some issues in pass pro that he shows in terms of, with timing his hands. I mean, he's got those short arms. I mean, there's little. My dad was an NFL O-line coach, and one of the things he always preached to me is that arm length is not overrated. People will tell you it's overrated. It is not overrated. You've got to be able. I mean, if you have shorter arms, you have a smaller margin for error. So your timing has to be impeccable. You've got to really be smart with how you feint and shoot your hands. You got to change up your pass sets and your attacks so that you keep, you really become a pitcher who has to keep somebody off balance in the batter's box. And so that's why I think Will Campbell has got that it could take a little while for him. And, frankly, I think Kelvin Banks has some of the same issues. He's too reactive as a pass pro guy. He's not proactive enough. He's not jumping out on top of guys with his pass sets. He had a great game as a freshman against Will Anderson. I mean, an absolutely great game against Will Anderson. And he's never been as good ever since then. Never been as good ever since then. So I think that's the big concern, is that he hasn't gotten better in pass protection, but I think he has that ability. The thing with Will Campbell is that Will Campbell is a physical, tough, mean guy. Mean in a good way. And I think that when you draft him, you're getting a certain culture in your locker room, and you're getting a guy that, worst case scenario, I think can run, bump down inside and play some guard. He's got to prove he can bend in the hips a little bit better. But let me tell you something. He can move people around as a run blocker. So that's one of the things I really like. I think you could start him at left tackle and eventually maybe move him to right tackle in the future if you need it. But Patriots are so desperate at left tackle, you kind of have to take what you can get right now.
That's interesting. That's been the big debate. And Lance, I've been saying arm length matters just because I got my arms measured. They've been measuring arms for 50 years at the combine, so it's got to count for something, right? So it's going to be fascinating.
First man in wins most of the time. I mean, so you got to get in first.
Yeah, exactly. What about guys? There's other people, offensive weapons that the Patriots, or maybe people are thinking that they might get like a Tyler Warren, or the great running back Ashton Genty. What about those players that are kind of like rated in the top 10, top 12 that could maybe the Patriots reach at 4? Do you see Tyler Warren or an Ashton Genty worthy of a fourth overall pick?
Boy, I think Genty's special. I think he's the best player in the draft. He's the highest rated player I have. Now, he's not going first because he's a running back, but when you talk about Genty, I think he's somebody that can be special. The question is, are the Patriots far enough along where they want to draft a running back? I don't have a problem with taking a really special running back and then having them for a 5-year, the 5th-year option, and then a 6-year with franchise tag, and then potentially a 7th year with a franchise tag. 7 years, do you want a running back more than 7 years? Not usually. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I just don't know if the Patriots are far enough along. However, I will throw this in here as a caveat. I also think these special running backs are good to grab for young quarterbacks because it takes pressure off of them. So in that regard, I'd love it. I think the key here for me is trade back if you can. If you have a clump of 2 or 3 tackles you like, it's trade back a few spots. You hope somebody gets excited about, all the mock drafts putting Ashton Genty at number 6 to the Raiders, and you get somebody maybe that says, hey, we want Ashton Genty, so we got to get ahead of 6. So where do we go? Either 4 or 5. I think that's the real key. Is you have to hope that a team gets excited, trade up, and to trade up and go grab Genty, which would mean the Patriots could move back and still pick up a tackle and pick up an additional draft pick. So, I think both guys I'd love to see both guys over there in New England. Would I like to see them at 4? I'd like to trade back and get an extra pick and take them maybe.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of trade back as well, and that definitely seems like it could be on the table, Lance.
It's on the table, but who wants to come up? Honestly, I mean, this is not a draft where people are trading up. That's going to be the problem. Is I don't know that there's a lot of players you trade up for in this draft into the top 7 or 8 picks. It gets juicy at about pick 10 to about pick 36. That's really the hot zone in this draft.
Yeah, flat landscape. Some have called it, from 4 to 12 or 4 to 20. Who are could be? So like who are like maybe 2 or 3 of the potential offensive difference makers you could see the Patriots targeting either top of the 2nd round or if they got brave on night one and decided to trade back up to the tail end of the first round.
Well, so I think if you really got brave, I mean, you got a lot of different needs. I think edge rush would be. Can I pick any position here?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Because you guys need just about everything.
Oh yeah.
I would say.
Ouch, babe.
I would say.
True though.
Well, look, if you're willing to take the shot, Josh Simmons has the best left tackle profile in this draft. The knock on him is there's a real maturity issue, and he's coming off of a patella injury that, even though it's been cleared, I think there's some concern about that. But if you were able to trade back in, and if you thought that Vrabel and his staff, could get the most out of Simmons and get him, I mean, listen, it's an Ohio State connection there. If you thought you could get that, that would be an unbelievable steal, grabbing him if he started sliding into the mid-20s. It's a gamble because you don't know where the football character is. But if you believe in Mike Vrabel and getting the most out of him, and I watched him work down here in Houston, I thought he was unbelievable. Getting the most out of players. If you believe in that, then to me, trading in and getting Josh Simmons could end up being a home run out of Ohio State. I think another move you could look at early in the second round is Mason Taylor, the tight end, Jason Taylor's son, out of LSU. I think he is going to really, the talk is about Tyler Warren, it's about Colston Loveland. Those are the two tight ends. But to me, I think Mason Taylor, the way he moves, he has such great football movement. He has such great football IQ. I think the sky is the limit for him. And to me, he can end up being one of the real stars of this draft in the early second round. So I think that's a player that you could get your young quarterback, a target, an easy-to-find target. One of the best things we've seen over the years, Phillip Rivers, for example, with Antonio Gates, is Troy Aikman with Jay Novacek. Give a young quarterback a good high-volume target tight end, and you can really hasten their development much more quickly. So those are a couple names that I'd take a look at.
Lance, before we let you go, you mentioned this team needs everything, and you're right. That's why a lot of people locally are looking at this draft and saying, not only do you need a starting left tackle, you probably need to get 3, 4, 5 other players that at least contribute. Maybe a couple of them are starters. Is that realistic in this draft class? Is there enough talent on the board where this team could bring home enough players to really change it in one class?
Well, so it depends on the position. It's really deep at edge. I think you can find a starter at edge in the third, maybe fourth round. Defensive tackle, same thing. It's a deep defensive tackle draft. It's very deep at running back. So if you wanted to find a running back that's going to get a decent amount of carries for you from a production standpoint, I think running back is going to be easy to find. I think edge is going to be pretty easy to find as long as you do it inside the first 3 rounds. And I think defensive tackle is going to. I think the second round is one of the sweet spots for the really good defensive tackles as well. So, yeah, I do think with what the Patriots need, you need more than one offensive lineman, obviously. So it's not great at guard. It's okay at guard once you get past the second round. So I think that, the concern is if you pass on tackle with your first pick, you're in a little bit of a quandary here because the level of talent at tackle goes way down once you hit the second round. So that's my concern is I'd love to get a tackle at the 7th or 8th pick, more so than the 4th pick. That's why the trade back is to me, that's going to be the first thing on my agenda would be to trade back and still target one of the tackles we like. If not, now you may not get the left tackle you need. There's not a lot of legit left tackles once you hit the second round, and you have to wait into the third round. Anthony Belton's a big, enormous left tackle, but I don't know if he's going to be a good starter right off the bat as a third or maybe even early 4th round pick. So that's the concern there. If you don't do it at 4, you could get yourself in trouble.
He is Lance Zierlein, NFL media. He knows as much about these prospects that you'll hear next week as anyone.
Certainly does.
Read his write-ups on NFL.com. Follow his draft tracker. Follow him on social media. Lance, look forward to the next week and that vacation you get after that.
Thanks, buddy.